Hello, friends. Welcome to the Logistics of Logistics podcast. My name is Joe Lynch. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today's topic is the Dark Funnel Demystified, unlocking hidden sales opportunities with my friend Jennie Malafarina. How's it going, Jennie?
It's good. How are you?
Doing great. So, Jennie, I'm excited to talk to you. We've been blabbing way too long before we hit the record button. So, Jennie, please introduce yourself and your company and where you're calling from today.
Sure. So, Jennie Malafarina, I'm calling in from Cleveland, Ohio. Unfortunately, go Browns. I'm a diehard Browns fan, so got to throw that in there. Even if we lose all the games, I'm still going to cheer for them. I've got quite a few companies, been putting my hands into some different things over the last couple of years. So my core company is Virago Marketing, and we solely serve the trucking and logistics space, offering marketing services that really help brands go to market. And then I started Freight Movement with Nate Johnson. And so we do local geographic industry events to bring the industry together at the local level. And then this last year, I don't know what Kool-Aid I've been drinking, but I'm like, let's try some entrepreneurship more than I already am. So I started a company called Ask Us Me. And Ask Us Me is about connecting individuals in this industry with other individuals that can help them solve industry challenges. So I think of it as the Upwork or Fiverr for logistics. If you wanted to connect with somebody and get help solving a logistics challenge, maybe you don't have a logistics person on staff and you need to talk to somebody about how to ship 2 bikes to China. What is the bill of lading? How do I get through compliance? Anything like that, making individuals more accessible. From a marketing standpoint, I love the idea of, oh, you want to do buyer persona interviews. Now I have access to individuals, and as long as they're getting paid what they want for their time, I think it's very affordable and doable, right? So now I can buy your time for an hour and I can do a buyer persona interview, which is amazing because then I can take that and spin it into really good quality strategic documentation for clients.
I think it's right on brand these days also, because I think we're all trying to get by with fewer people on staff, but also sometimes we need expertise that we don't have on staff. And somebody can say, you just Google it or go to ChatGPT, they'll give you all that. But sometimes you really need the expert to talk to you.
And things are changing so quickly right now that it's like, hey, what's the latest? So it's good to have that access to a person. And I do think as much as we're embracing AI and it's amazing, the things that it can do, sometimes you just want to talk to a person. You just want to talk to a person.
I heard somebody say this not too long ago. They said, we are going to be the supervisors and managers for AI for a while. And that's basically because I want Jennie to be responsible for marketing and she can use all the AI she wants. But ultimately, if things go wrong, I want to blame a human.
I love that. Sounds about right.
So talk about your 2 other companies that you've started.
Yeah. So the next one is 88 Express, and we just launched the website. We're still doing some development there, but basically it scours the internet for the top 5 news stories in the industry. And then it does a virality analysis on it, picks the top 2 stories, turns it into a script, turns it into a video, and automatically posts to all the social channels. So in my mind, this is like evolving how you want to consume content, right? Like we were talking about like what is really the content of that people want, and it's video, right? It's easy to consume, it's visually appealing for so many reasons. Like people aren't necessarily downloading white papers and reading blogs and things like that. So this is my way of creating a space that leverages that AI automation, agentic models, and gives a place to get news in a different way. You can follow it on TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, like it is everywhere. And it is built to be fully automated. So I just think that's a really fun thing I'm working on right now. I think what's to come is with the growth of it, getting more followers, we will be able to leverage it as an advertising channel in the sense that, hey, if you want to reach out to this audience, here's a way that you can do that. And I think there's some cool AI tricks that we have planned. If people need media training or they don't have time to spin out videos, leveraging AI and avatars, that's something that we'll be able to do. So I think that's on the horizon. Yeah. The last company is Cami.ai. And right now you can go to getcami.com and sign up to be part of the beta. But Cami, so ChatGPT Model 5 just came out, right? So Cami is going to leverage these models, whether it's Perplexity, ChatGPT, DeepSeek, whatever the case may be, to get the best kind of use case, right? Perplexity is great for today's news. ChatGPT is great for strategy, really robust. But it's going to leverage these models built into an agentic system. It's not only going to be able to execute and have a RAG system and a memory for your brand, but it's also going to be executing, posting your blog, posting your social. And then also, because it'll have access to your analytics, it'll be able to look at those and make recommendations for how to improve. So if you're thinking about how do I go to market, I need a strategy, I need a key messaging, I need to understand my target market, my ICPs, my buyer personas, all these marketing terms. It's taking all this content, it's templating it, it's leveraging models to complete this information for you, but then all that information goes into its RAG system and can now execute with it. So that I think there's 30, it's some kind of crazy number, like 33 million companies that have one or no marketing person. This goes alongside them, becomes their partner. Or you think about companies that don't have a marketing person, now they can take over that marketing department and they have all the strategic elements and it knows how to execute and it just becomes a member of your team. So it works with no marketing team all the way through having like an enterprise marketing team. Fill the gap on the team.
It's crazy. And we'll figure it out somewhere along the line. But when I think about what we talked about today and what we're going to continue to talk about today is building relationships, driving conversations. We're going to talk about personal branding today. All these things that we think are critically important for our careers and for building our businesses. And then when I think of all that, then we talk about all this AI stuff. And so I always think that we want to obviously leverage this technology, but if there's an old book, very old now, I think, called Megatrends, and it was talking about the future. And one of the mega trends that they talked about was high tech, high touch. And this was probably written in the 80s. And it was said the more that we have the use of technology, the more we crave human touch, human connection. And so I always think that we want to get the right mix. So if sometimes we talk to AI on the phone, we go, I don't care, fine. Sometimes I don't want to talk to AI. So if I, God forbid, I'm in the hospital and I'm with a loved one and they say, oh yeah, that we have an interactive AI model that'll talk to you about your mom's condition. You're like, no. Bring me a doctor, bring me a nurse. I don't mind. I'll talk to AI when I go home. But while I'm here, I'm talking to you, damn it. Maybe that'll change. Maybe at some point I'll go, no, I want to talk to the AI doctor, not you. I know you'll forget things.
Well, I think that's already WebMD, right? And the doctors are like, stop going to WebMD. You don't have cancer. Talk to a doctor.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Jennie, tell us a little bit about you. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? Some career highlights before you got involved with all these businesses. And how did you get involved with all these businesses?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know. I was born in Sewell, Ohio, which is actually down by Pittsburgh, but on the Ohio side of the Ohio River. So I was born there. My family had moved up to Cleveland, Ohio. I was really young, probably like kindergarten. And we moved up to Cleveland, Ohio. My parents were looking for better opportunities for us, which I'm severely grateful for. It's amazing what we got from Cleveland, because I'll tell you, I've lived in small towns and I'm like, this is not for me. I need options. I need different options. So I went to Trinity High School, which was a private Catholic high school. I will tell you that my mom said I'm going to go there so that I did not get beat up in the public high school. Not that I have a mouth or anything, but she was like, oh, I think this is better for you. So I went there. It was a college prep high school. After high school, I went to Cleveland State University. All my friends had went off to college, and I really felt like I got the short end of the stick. But like I said, my parents moved to Cleveland for better opportunities, and they paid for my high school, and they were still paying for my high school when I was going to college. So I really appreciate that. But it left me like, oh, you got to go to a local high school. We're not going to co-sign for more loans. We've got all these loans. So it put me in a weird situation. But so I think I went to school for a year, or a semester. I can't remember. And then I went and studied abroad in Australia. So I was like, I'm getting out of here one way or another. So went over to Australia for, I think it was like 6 to 8 months. That was an amazing experience. And I really learned like who I am and what I'm capable of. I literally moved as far away as I could without starting to come back. So that was amazing. And then I eventually came back and everything was like the same. Everybody was still off at school. It was still like these like low key jobs that were available to me. It just didn't seem like it was the right path. So I joined the military and I did my basic at Fort Jackson, and then I did my AIT at Fort Gordon. And so I was a 94 Romeo, which was an avionics communication systems repair. All that to say, I think I ordered not new parts, new components. It was so expensive to fix radar detectors and laser detectors and things like that. So we just replaced them. Even though I was a repairman, mechanic for those, I think I put in phone calls to get new components. But after I was in the military AIT, I had met my ex-husband. We got married very quickly. We had 3 kids. He got out because he is a disabled veteran. We moved to Arkansas. It was very hard on me because I was accustomed to my time in Cleveland with the land of all the choices, and I lived in McGehee, Arkansas, and you either went there or nowhere. Like that was it. I was also working at a bank, and I will never forget the owner telling me $9 an hour for a woman is good. And I was like, I'm out of here. I am out of here. Packed up my 2 kids. I was pregnant with my third, came back to Cleveland, went back to finish my bachelor's. I'll never forget because I had my third child on Friday, went back to school on Monday. I was taking a double course load because I was like, I've got to get out of here and take care of these kids, right? And I'm going to make more than $9 an hour. Promise you that. Finished my bachelor's and I was asking for a letter of recommendation to put in a career portfolio, go out there and get a job. And they were like, we'd rather give you a letter of recommendation for the master's program. And I just remember saying, I can't afford that. Yeah, I need a job. I've got all these kids, 3 under 5. And they were like, oh no, it's free and we pay you. And I was like, oh, okay, sign me up. So I got my master's degree, and it wasn't really until I got my master's that the doors started opening. I did an internship with the Cleveland Foundation, which was a great experience. Then I got an internship with a PR firm, learned that side of the business, and then realized I really just love data, and that came with marketing. So then I went to a marketing firm. I got recruited to TMW Systems. They swooned me with insurance because I had 3 kids, and marketing agencies don't typically
That
have.
part of Trimble.
Yep. So TMW, I was there at TMW when it was already acquired by Trimble, but then it merged with PeopleNet and 10-4, and I was there for all of that. Trimble had a lot of changeover through that acquisition and that merge. I ultimately left, went to Transportation Insights. I was traveling down there once a month for a week. It's a lot with 3 kids. So I was like, let me get a job closer to home. Got a job closer to home. And then I had a friend reach out and say, hey, you want to do an agency with me? I have this. I need your help. We'll do, whatever. And I was like, I'm so risk aversive. It took a while to get me on board. So eventually I got on board, and ta-da, here's Virago.
Here you are today. Oh, I'm glad you are. You know, it's funny you mentioned Cleveland and the opportunities. I was there. I was at the Cleveland NMFTA, had the cybersecurity conference there last November, and I went. We stayed right downtown, and we were right across from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We could walk over. We took a bus there, and most of us walked back. But very cool downtown. And I joke about this, and you know it because you're from Cleveland. I'm from the Detroit metro area. I never grew up in Detroit. I'm from the suburbs. Like most people who say I'm from Detroit, they're from the suburbs. But
Same with Cleveland.
yeah. And if you go to Detroit, most of the areas you will visit are like world class and like the best, but it is the brunt of so many jokes and
It
people
is.
like, oh, he's from Detroit. And it's the same when you're from Cleveland. And then I always think, oh, I go to New York or LA. I'm like, yeah, I'm not putting them down, but their big cities are big cities. And I always think to myself is we overlook a lot of what's going on. And when we talk about supply chain, the supply chain was born and raised in Michigan and Ohio, in Indiana and Illinois, and a lot of very unglamorous factories and a lot of very unglamorous terminals and warehouses that built this country. And by the way, I'm not putting down any other area, but this area where we live tends to get slept on a little bit.
Yeah. We were leading the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah. And by the way, so much, my daughters live out on the West Coast and they always say, oh, so and so got pregnant. They're going to move back to Ohio or back to Minnesota or back to somewhere in the Midwest because you can afford to live here.
Oh, yeah. You can afford to live there. Yeah. But one of my favorites is we can get anywhere in 20 minutes. Like, how far is that? 20 minutes?
Yeah. Yeah. So we've got a whole bunch to talk about today, Jenny. First off, I want to, since it's in the title, I want to talk about the dark funnel. So I'm gonna give you my 2 cents on the dark funnel. Then I want to hear your actually educated view on it. So the dark funnel, I've done a podcast on this before, and maybe I'll put a link to that in the show notes. By the way, I will put a link to Jenny's LinkedIn profile. I'll link to her websites, all the websites, and any of the links. Who in her go-to-market team give me, I will put those in the show notes so you can reach out and talk to her. But when we talk about the dark funnel, what we're talking about is this phenomenon that's happened over the last decade or so. In the not so olden days, I'll say 10, 15 years ago, us marketers says, I'm going to write a white paper and I'm going to put it on my website and then you're going to download it. And as soon as you download it, I'm going to send you an email and say, congratulations on being my new customer. I'm going to start calling you on a regular basis. I'm going to email you. We are now one and the same. Congrats. And that is not what they wanted, but we continued to do that. And I think it was a little bit of a turnoff. And they attended your webinar, so you thought they want to buy from us. And by the way, as a good salesperson, I get it. You follow up with people who attend your webinar. But most of the people who attend your webinar, download your white paper, download your case study, connect with you on LinkedIn, they aren't necessarily saying, I'm buying right now. I think probably less than 5% are ready to buy right now. So the dark funnel came around where people said, I'm not going to attend your webinar. I'll listen to your podcast, but podcast, you don't have to give the name. I will check out, I'll be connected to you on LinkedIn. I want to keep an eye on you. I want to look at your content, but I'm not going to identify. I'm not raising my hand and saying, put me on your list. So that dark funnel is, and by the way, we're all doing it. I don't sign up for stuff if I think, okay, I have to sign up for this now. I'm going to get a whole bunch of people reaching out. It's rare because, again, I feel like we got a little aggressive with it.
Got a little aggressive.
What's your 2 cents on that?
I think marketing got their hands on something that was actually really cool and figured out how to ruin it. Because at one point when content was coming out and people wanted that content, they'd fill out the form. But they were okay with going in the database, right? They were okay with, okay, now you know who I am. But what we did was like, all right, you're going in this sequence. Bob is calling you in exactly 3 minutes. As soon as you hit enter, your phone rings and you're in the funnel.
You're in the club. You're in the club, bro.
And we are going to reach out every day. So I really feel like we ruined it. Like we created something that could have been great, but then we abused it. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, this has been an ongoing evolution. You talked about before we hit the record button, you said marketing and sales is evolving, and it's been evolving ever since we got online. We've seen quick evolution. Prior to this, I existed before the internet, so I remember these days. Prior to the internet, I could call you up and say, Jenny, I have a world-class trucking organization. I do this, I do that. We have 16 trucks in your neighborhood. I could say almost anything to you, and you would go, hey, I talked to this great sales guy, and he said all these things. And then I specialize in cold chain because you do cold chain. You almost have no way to follow up and see if anything I said is true. That's not the case now. We're all connected. So you look and say, oh, Joe said he has 16 trucks, but he doesn't have a website.
It's funny you say that.
And he's on LinkedIn and he has no employees. And so you go, I don't understand what he just said. Also, prior to the internet, the way people found us was we reached out to them typically or went to a conference or something. Now people are finding because they came to your website, they connect you with on LinkedIn. it's a little different. And I think we have to treat the world a little differently. And I think for a while, to your point, we maybe abused some of the tools we got. So enough of my blather. Your 2 cents on where we go on this.
It's funny because when you were saying, oh, they found you and they reached out, we are talking yellow page days. Yeah, the yellow pages out, we called. And then you know what probably happened? Somebody probably got on a plane or train or automobile and came over and had a meeting at your facility. And things have just evolved. And this industry is not massive, right? We have the ability to like meet people from all over the industry. So I feel COVID changed things with going to facilities. Maybe things are coming back online, but people really aren't making those calls anymore. It's a very expensive endeavor to pop into your shop and hope you're there to have a chat. So I really think like relationships, building relationships should be your number one strategy. And to me, this is part of that dark funnel. I meet Joe. Joe introduces me to Nick. Nick introduces me to so and I'm building all these relationships and connections, but I'm not doing it and going to my HubSpot and putting you guys into my pipeline, right? These aren't sales opportunities, but this is that web and that dark funnel where I'm connecting with these people and they're introducing me to different people. And then eventually it'll turn into something, but I'm not tracking this relationship with Joe.
Yeah, I was just saying that to you, that we have all these great tools and we say, okay, I have this relationship. So I have a relationship with you, Jenny. And I said this before we hit the record button. I don't quantify my relationship with you. I go, okay, I've split all my relationships. Here's the males. And so Jenny is a female. She's in Ohio. So we have the Midwestern thing going for us, so we can connect there. Oh, good. She's not a Buckeye, so she probably doesn't hate me for being a Wolverine.
Oh, no, that's true. I'm a Buckeye. We're not on good terms. You're Wolverines.
By the way, I always say, we should all be so lucky to have an opponent who makes us get better every damn day. The rest of us just go, oh yeah, my competition, they're okay, they're cool. not for the football players.
No, twice a year we're gonna lay it out there, Joe. We'll see who comes out on top. As long as we don't.
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a whole thing. I forgot. Only in East Lansing in Ohio did they think that.
Yeah.
But anyway, getting back to it, I don't try and quantify my relationship with you in any crazy way where I say, no, it's a relationship. It's messy. It's a person. And I think when we talk about marketing, we want to start to say, okay, put it in boxes, and sales wants us to put it in ways that we can manage as a business. But it's one of those, I always say sales and marketing is a factory where you only run half the factory. The buyers run the other half, and they will do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah. And I think if you do talk to somebody who could be a prospect, you might put it in your pipeline or put a note in there to keep that relationship going, but they shouldn't. There's not a true opportunity yet. It's just a contact, right? But it's potential. And so marketing does things that should nurture that relationship with the brand, but you need to do things as an individual to nurture your relationship with them on the human level, right? People don't necessarily build relationships with brands. They connect with other humans. And that's really what that dark funnel is all about. It's hard to quantify. You do these podcasts, you don't know who viewed it. But then what's been really cool for me is I'll get like a reach out once in a while, and they'll be like, I listened to your podcast the other day and I just sat there and took notes. And I'm like, score. Like it's one person, but I'm like, I won. I won.
It's very much a leap of faith when you come on podcast, because they don't give you a lot of good data about who was there. People do reach out, they self-identify. And I went to a conference, it was Manifest, not last year, but the year before I was there. I went to a cocktail party that one of the venture capital companies had. It was the day before Manifest. And there was 7 portfolio companies that I had interviewed founders at. And we were all just sitting around having a drink and having some hors d'oeuvres. And I remember they all talked about, they said, every time somebody interviews with me, they've listened to that podcast. And they said, and some number of customers reach out and say, oh, I heard you on the Logistics of Logistics. And you go, yes, good to know. And because it is, again, a leap of faith. You can't say, hey, Jenny, the reason you should be on the Logistics of Logistics is because there's 16 companies listening that are looking for marketing help. And I would love to say that. I really would. But that's just not the way the world works today. You started to get into networking. And I want to talk about, before we get into the networking piece, because I think they're interconnected, is personal branding. I know you're a very big advocate for the personal branding, and of course, everybody's for that. But what do we need to do to build that personal brand that lets us have followers, lets people connect to us in a more authentic way? But how do we go about doing all that?
Yeah, I think the key word that you said there was authentic. And I'm going to tell you my little secret. Okay, I do have an automation that helps me connect with people in the industry that would make sense for me to have a connection with. I've built out this list. They're in my industry. They might be in marketing, they might not be. It just depends, but it naturally makes sense to connect with these people. Now, if they connect with me, oftentimes I ask them for a 15-minute chat, and I am not going in for sales. I'm not a salesperson. I'm just trying to, who are you? I am in my living room day in and day out. I know my cat and dog. Like, I want to talk to somebody else, right? So I'll just ask them, hey, are you open to a 15-minute coffee chat just to see what you're up to, what I'm up to? Then when we meet at a show, we have another connection, right? And that's really what I try to do, is compounds my network, because it's when you meet people that introduce you to other people and so on, and it just keeps going. And I really love that. And I think that's my go-to-market strategy, is to meet people and put myself out there. So it's very uncomfortable to do a chat with somebody on no apparent topic that you don't know. You're just like, hi, who are you? It can be weird, but I do it.
I think what makes those conversations a little easier is if you doing some of that personal branding, where they say, we're connected on LinkedIn and you posted this and I commented on it. And I think when I think about personal branding, I think of LinkedIn a lot. There's people that we're both connected to who create really great content on a regular basis. And I think that's good, but I think there's also a personal side to it. So we all have, you'll see it on LinkedIn, and I don't think it's inappropriate. And it seemed like it would have been 10 years ago, but it's not now, where somebody says, hey, my dad died. He was my hero. And they might have posted something. And by the way, somebody went and said, hey, that's totally inappropriate, as if that person's not human. And I think we see some of that, where you have people talk about juggling family,
Joe, it is going even further than that.
weight loss journeys.
Yeah,
There's all sorts of that, but it also lets you connect with them in a way that is
we're
more
all
human. And
human. Yeah. But I will tell you,
not AI. So some of it is AI.
yeah, sharing your personal experiences like that, whether it's your parents, your kids. I posted my very first personal LinkedIn, I think just a couple months ago. My daughter was playing in the softball nationals, and she hit an out of the park over center field walk-off home run. And it was like the most thing. And I was like, I just want to share this. I just want to share it. And it blew up. And I love that. But I will tell you what I am actually seeing more of, even more than the LinkedIn human posts, is Facebook connections. I'm starting to see more people from my industry connect with me on Facebook, because I don't know what's driving it, but it's definitely, I don't know if it's the matter of popping up because you may know them, but it just seems like it's a domino effect. Like, I get
Yep.
one and I get four more.
Oh yeah. And I got to tell you, I have a friend, and he's a business owner, and he's on LinkedIn, and he puts political stuff up there. And I'm always like, dude, what are you doing? You don't do that. Don't do that. And it's strong political views, as a lot of people do. And he said, yeah, it turns off half the people, but half the people like it. And I was like, okay, that's a plan.
Is
Yeah,
that
it seems.
what you're comfortable with?
I don't like it. I don't want to hear anyone's politics on there. But I will say that has changed over the last decade, where we see people sharing more about their family, more about, by the way, you would have never, when I first started working, no one would say, oh, mental health issue. You'd be like, what? You're crazy? Why are you working here if you're crazy? Right now, I think you see people say, oh, I was stressed out. I was, when my head wasn't in the right place. You'll see more of that. And I think it's the human, getting you back to it, high tech, high touch. As more and more of automation and AI takes over, I think we're craving personal connections. And I think that personal connection be part of personal branding and hopefully networking. Personal branding that doesn't connect you with people is probably not what we want.
No. Personal branding's goal should be connecting with people. So if you're not connecting with people, then reevaluate your personal branding strategy.
So while we're talking about that networking, so I know one of your projects is freight movement, and that, by the way, that is spelled FR8MVMT. Again, I'll put a link in the show notes so people can reach out and talk to you about it. It's all about networking. So talk about freight movement. What is it?
So I started Free Movement with Nate Johnson last year. So it's been a little over a year since our first event. So maybe we started it 2 years ago because it took us a while to figure out what was this going to be and how were we going to launch it. So we did some pilots and whatnot, I want to say in June of last year. And what it was, and people were super interested in it, was here's all these people from different aspects of the industry. Let's get together and have drinks and an appetizer and just meet people. And to me, this idea of making the industry more accessible was just so attractive. You go to these big events, like for example, Manifest, you've got 7,000 people. You're rushing to your sessions. It's not till the networking events that you're actually meeting people. But then you realize maybe people that don't have the right title, the budget, the time to go are there at the event. In many cases, you see the same people at some of the events, which is fine. But like, what about all the people at home? Like, how do they mix and mingle? And I think having these events, we do it with the intention to have a conversation. You never know what's going to come from a conversation. And so it could be recruiting, it could be sales, it could be partnerships, it could be integrations, it could be investments. Like, but it's creating that opportunity to have a conversation and explore that.
So can you walk us through one of those events? What's like one of the ones you can talk about right now?
Yeah, so we actually have an event coming up in 10 days in Atlanta, and that event is going to be sponsored by Upwell and Transfix. And basically, we have a location. This one's going to be at New Realm Brewery, and we send out an invite to tons of people in the area from the industry. It's for everyone, and that's why it's creating value for everyone, because you're not coming to the come to the logistics of logistics event and our sales team is going to be here waiting for you. It's come to the freight movement event. We're bringing people from all over the industry. Come meet some people. So the thing is, like, there's carriers meeting brokers, there's brokers meeting shippers, there's operations managers, dispatch owners. The whole thing is like creating an environment where there's transparency.
Yeah. And it's a cool sense of community because maybe I'm all for Manifest is great. I'm going to go to the IANA conference. I'm going to the Trimble conference. These are all fantastic conferences, but they're big and they're usually most of the people there are traveled to it. I think the nature of what you guys are doing is it's more local communities, which I think there's some value in because maybe that's your next partner. Maybe that's your next job, right? So you get to that event and you go, oh, I didn't realize that I lived by Jenny. I didn't realize that company was right down the street from me. And I think this is where we bring back again, I keep saying it, high tech, high touch. The more the world becomes remote and AI and automated, the more we want to see people.
Yeah.
AI, as nice as it is and as good as our automation is, it will not go and have a beer with you at the brewery.
Darn it.
Yet.
I'm not sure I want to. I'm not sure I want to. I think connecting with people is it's just really great. And people crave that, right? So brands that are supporting us and sponsoring these events recognize that there's power in the brand alignment to say we support bringing the industry together. We support getting people together and making connections and building relationships. Because I'll tell you, these events being open to everyone is not, hey, here's my list of prospects, fill the room with my prospects. It's like there's partners, there's all kinds of people. You don't know who's going to come to the event. It's for everyone.
I think there's still a struggle with personal branding especially on LinkedIn or Facebook or any of the social media, with especially companies as they get a little larger. We might have Jenny and Joe on your team and you say, okay, they're content creators. We appreciate that, but I don't want them to do something that would shed a negative light on the company. And at the same time, I don't want to muffle them so much that they are speaking corporate speak to people. And I always think that's the challenge we all have with brands is that I might have somebody write an article that they say, hey, I feel very strongly about this. And the brand go, oh, wait a sec, Joe, you can't write that because that's going to cost us customers, cost us a negative light. How do we manage that? I don't even know that there is a right answer to how we manage that.
I think it's very interesting because I know some companies that are dealing with this because as you work to build your personal brand, you have perspectives, right? And your brand is focusing and sharing on these. I'll tell you, I have this scenario myself where I've had people like approach me about it. Whitney Cowell's on my team and she has sober souls. She has battled with addiction.
Oh, I just talked to her about
Yeah,
that.
she has battled with addiction and things like that, but she is in a much better place, and she's sharing these stories to help other people get to a much better place or, like, resonate, right? Like, you're not alone, and so here's her this is her brand. This is all over her LinkedIn. I don't own her LinkedIn. Like, though and I see this time and time again with other people where they're trying to build up who they are in the industry, and how does that align with your corporate brand?
I've seen, you know what I think is one of the bigger challenges is the NFL. So we all know our teams, right? And what they're doing. And we all know the stars of the league if you watch. And then if one of those guys, oh, he got drunk and beat somebody up, and it happens. These are young, aggressive men, and they're stars and they're rich. And so people come to them and say probably inappropriate things and that they're not perfect people. And I always think that when they do something, they're representing not only their team, but the whole league, where they go, oh my God, can you believe this league has got all these thugs or whatever the words are. And I always think where my head's at is I was always saying, I think they should have very low tolerance, not because I didn't particularly give a damn, but I just wouldn't want, I don't care. The star of the league could be fired from NFL and we would all watch the next day. You could fire the top 10 players in the NFL and none of us would stop watching. And I always think, because again, that's not exactly personal branding. It's more of a behavior thing. But I always think this is a little bit of the challenge. You mentioned Whitney. So she's got a great message. I think most families have had, most people would say, yes, I know either I or a friend or a family member had addiction issues. I understand I drank too much or whatever. I think that's a great message. But what do you do with the guy who has something, I'm just making this up. Hey, he's got a whole bunch of face tattoos and piercings. And you go, oh, I don't want that guy out front for our brand. I don't care, but some brands might care.
Well, that's up to that brand, right? If that is not the face that we want on the brand, that's their choice. I will tell you, I had a friend post, I have my nose pierced, I have purple hair, I had tattoo showing, and I'm doing this amazing thing. And what I loved about that is this person got to be who they wanted to be, protected themselves as they are, very authentic, and did an amazing job. And that didn't matter. Now, when you talk about being covered in face tattoos and stuff like that, I'm not exactly sure that's a comfort level for me, but so I feel in my mind, I'm like, there's a comfort space that I'm okay.
No, it's a weird thing because we want our people to be able to say you're living your life and you're able to build your personal brand that hopefully aligns with the company brand and by the way, I think most companies now say, we're pretty inclusive places. We have a big tent over here. So most of them fit. But I always think that as people, well, by the way, politics is a good example. If you decide I'm going to get very political and your company's, hey, we don't want that because you're putting divisiveness online. I could see where they will. Yeah. And so anyway, getting back to it, I've seen brands, big brands, be very structured. You can do this and you can't do that. And by the way, I'm a podcaster and you are too. How many big companies say, oh no, you can't talk to that guy. He hasn't had the media training yet.
Yeah. I mean, there's some people who are like, they need their media training before they.
And I'm not even against it. I think they just want to make sure that we say this, not this. We say this,
Yeah.
not that.
That's loosened up a little bit, especially because like people are remote, trying to coordinate schedules and things like that. I feel like it's loosened up a little bit. I'm sure those larger brands are very strict on some stuff, but the smaller brands who I think are adopting more of these channels, like to do the podcasts and stuff, are like, this is who I am. And I'm going to show up every day. And that's what makes us unique and different.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, you talked briefly about recruiting. I know of a trucking company that said, "Hey, we want to highlight our drivers so that people who we're recruiting will say, oh, that guy fits, so I fit." And so there was some number of people, a lot of drivers are immigrants, and so a lot of immigrants are maybe uncomfortable. English is their second language. They want to make sure they're putting the right face on this thing and so they go, oh, wait, they got a whole bunch of people like me over there. And so if you highlight, hey, these are the kind of drivers we have, and they're from all over the world, and they come in all shapes and sizes. Some are even women. Who knew, right? And
there are women. Yeah.
more than ever before, but not nearly as many as we probably should have. So I think that is the kind of thing that you can recruit with.
Yeah, I remember doing a campaign maybe last year, and it was focusing on the next generation of drivers because they're looking vastly different than they used to. And I think that's smart to show, like, this is who we are. Oh, and you look like us too, right? Like, I mean, you're driving. I mean, you don't have to check any boxes in terms of certain appearances or anything like that to do that. And I think in industry accepting
some companies are going to have that. Like, I'll tell you, when you drive and delivering to grandma's house and you go, oh, my grandma called me and said, a guy with a nose piercing and a face tattoo is knocking on my door. Should I call the police? Go, unless there's a delivery truck in front, you call the police.
If you see a delivery truck, you're good. I don't know. I'll be honest. I'd be scared of somebody knocking on the door in general if there's not a delivery truck. And it doesn't matter if they have a face tattoo.
Yeah, the world's changed. I tell my kids, when the phone used to ring, you couldn't tell who it was. It could be Satan calling and you had to answer it. It was an obligation.
Satan?
And I said, and the same when the door knocked. People knock on the door, you're like, cool, friends and family are coming over. Now you're like, who the hell would knock on my door?
No, and look at your ring camera and you're like, not home. Leave it on the porch.
Yeah. I'm telling you, the scariest things you see online are ring camera video where they're like, and is that a ghost that knocked on your door at 4 a.m?
Right? Technology.
Yeah. I also wanted to talk to you about differentiating your company. We talked about Dark Funnel, very important. We talked about the value of networking and personal branding. And I want to next get into this idea of differentiating and why it's so important. And let me just set this up for you just for a second. Again, I talked about pre-internet. Pre-internet, I could say we are everything to everybody because it was only outbound. I'm reaching out to people. Nobody is calling me unless they called me from the Yellow Pages. So I'm reaching out. Now I go online and say I created a website. And on my website, it says we are everything to everyone. If it moves, we move it. You will never be found that way. And people like Jennie will tell you, I can't work with you unless you develop some niches or a niche. So please talk about the importance of differentiating. I talked to Nick Klingensmith last week about the same topic. I know you're going to talk to Nick coming up. And I always say, if you have to make 100 phone calls a day, make those 100 phone calls to the same kind of company. And ideally, it's the stuff that you do best. And if you're brand new to that job, say, what is the business that we focus on? If it's all flatbeds doing building materials, only call building material companies.
Yeah. So there's a lot to actually unpack there. So first, where I like to start with a company in terms of an engagement for Virago Marketing is a strategic roadmap. So the strategic revenue roadmap is basically, who are you? What's your ICP? What's your SWOT? What's your go-to-market?
ICP is?
Ideal client profile. Sorry.
Okay. And then, so that's the people you want to work with. And what was the next thing, next acronym?
SWOT. So like strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So really understanding the foundation of your business, right? And then what are your sales objectives? What are your business objectives? What are your sales objectives? And then we can figure out, okay, what are the marketing objectives? And then what are the strategies and tactics for achieving those? So we already know what the company is trying to accomplish and what kind of the temperature of the market is and all these things. And so this is where that segmentation comes in place and these unique differentiators. So if you do something really well, focus on that, lead with that, and then say, yeah, in conversation, we can do these other things. And so what that does is when you go to market and you're, like you said, you're picking up the phone and you're calling similar companies, you can have messaging specifically for them. So you should really focus on what you do really well and get case studies for that, because other people want to know that what you do really well, other people think you do really well. So if you go out there and we do this, it's all turned into a doesn't matter. It's lost in all the noise, right? Because we're just surrounded by content. You do a search.
I think you're so much better off with your confidence also if you say we only do cold chain for food and pharma. And then when you're talking to someone, if I'm talking to you and you are the ideal customer persona and I'm talking to you, I can say, Jenny, I asked, what problems do you have? And you start to describe your problems. I already know those problems because I have similar customers. And now I can be a much more confident salesperson or marketing person. And I think what's horrible about cold calling sometimes or talking to someone who you don't know what they do and go, oh, so you move stuff around oil fields. Okay, what are the biggest problems? And you describe the problems, and I go, oh, I have no idea how to solve those problems because I'm a cold chain guy. I think that's where we hurt our sales efforts. And I think also you can't market to everybody and say, hey, the new marketing campaign is everything that moves, we
Everybody.
move it. Yeah. And you go, do you specialize in anything? Yeah, we specialize in everything and in every type of vehicle. That's us. And by the way, it's probably the largest companies out there might say we have 17 different segments. Good for them. That's why they didn't start that way. The biggest companies started with one niche. And then as soon as they said we got a big chunk of that, they moved to the next one and the next one. And I was a perfect example of these. If you look at like Deloitte or McKinsey, they work in market segments. And for each one of their market segments, they have market leaders and they have specific content for that. They a lot of times will have an author who wrote a book who is working with them on their best practices and maybe even a consultant there. And if they don't do it, they don't pretend. So if they say, no, we do these 6 practices, and you come and say, hey, could you do this other one?
That goes back to the authenticity. So one thing I always tell everybody is be a good player in the larger ecosystem. So that means being open to these integrations and not trying to be everything to everybody. Because I've worked with companies that do that. And ultimately, you end up failing somewhere. Because if you're trying to do everything, you're not doing anything.
Yeah, that's I said on the podcast before. When you say you're everything to everyone, you're probably no one to everyone.
He's trying to do all the things instead of really doing this really well.
Yeah. And I've advised very large shippers. And I remember how we went to look for the ideal third party logistics. We wanted to say, do you have similar customers? Show us that you understand this business. And I say it all the time on the podcast. I don't want, as a shipper, I don't want anyone learning on my dime. You have to learn somewhere, but you're not learning with our business. Start somewhere else that's much smaller than us, then come to us. And again, I just think it's I can't, if I'm talking to a marketer like you and I say, hey, you're going to help us with our website and our marketing, and we aren't experts. You know that right away. I've done a little bit of marketing. And when you say, what's your expertise? And if I can't speak to it and we can't write an article, you can't help me. Marketers need you to be an expert in what you do.
You're the SME. You're the SME.
Yes, subject matter expert, and you can't skim across the top. And by the way, the older way of doing business in our space is I make 100 phone calls a day, and I think that's a tough way to live. It doesn't work as well as it once did, but I still say, even if you got to make 100 phone calls a day, still pick an area that you specialize in and be that expert. No one really wants to talk to a salesperson. They want an expert who can solve their problem.
And if you're not the right expert, be courteous enough to tell them that. We don't do that. And like part of that ecosystem is be a risk grower for somebody else.
Yep. I also think when you do a webinar or you come on a podcast or you write an article, all that other stuff that you can and should consider doing as part of your personal branding it's also making you more expert. I've had an experience, I've said it before, and I won't get into it too deep, but I was doing a webinar and I called somebody who was going to attend the webinar ahead of time. And because I thought it'd be an ideal customer for me. The lady was short on the phone, hung up, and not rude or anything, just short. Hey, I don't have time for this. The next morning, she called me or sent me an email saying, Joe, please give me a call. And she said, oh, yesterday when you called, I didn't realize it was you. I just thought it was some sales guy. And I was thinking, that's what I am. I am some sales guy. But she saw
But
me
she
as an expert who was
yeah.
doing the webinar next week. It was on cross border and she was attending it. And by the way, if you're doing webinars, I always say, look at the best customers on there, look them up on LinkedIn, and then call them in advance and say, hey, Jenny knows you signed up for my webinar. Do you have just a minute? I'd like to talk about what you're hoping to get from that webinar. And then you start telling me that's the best way to sell. After the webinar, they don't want to talk.
But that's what works in that relationship. Like, you reached out to customers and you're like, "Hey, we're putting on this webinar. What do you wanna get out of it?" And that's a great way to kick up a conversation and understand their pain points and what they're looking to solve, and then you get to be the partner to deliver.
So, Jenny, what conferences will we see when the fine folks from all these companies at Virago, Freight Movement, and all the other companies you're involved with, what conferences will we see you guys at?
So we have 2 freight movement events. We got this one coming up August 21st in Atlanta, but then the one in September is alongside McLeod, and that's in Denver, so we'll be there. And then I think I'm also gonna go to Women in Supply Chain for the first time. Not sure if I'm
Where's
gonna
that
ma
at?
it's in Clearwater, so we're gonna turn that into a little workcation.
There you go.
Sounds very fitting. Might
That's in
be at
November,
Broker
right?
Carrier Summit, depends kinda some of these conferences seem to be overlapping a little bit or really close turn, so not sure, but probably gonna try to make it to Broker Carrier Summit and
That's in Orlando in October.
yes, yes. I think that's probably gonna be it for the year.
So I'm going to try and summarize all this that we
Alrighty.
talked about, Jenny, and then I want to get your final thoughts on the topic. So I'm talking to my friend Jennie Malafarina, and we're talking today about the Dark Funnel Demystified, unlocking hidden sales opportunities. And those hidden sales opportunities, I don't think so much of what we talk about is the basics. Those hidden sales opportunities are recognizing that we have to do some personal branding. And that should be, as you said, authentic. It should be creating some content. Maybe it's some video, maybe it's some audio, maybe it's LinkedIn posts. It doesn't matter. Become that expert that people are looking for. And don't, if you have something personal to share and is appropriate, go ahead and share it. I think this is how we build these relationships. And by the way, I can tell you, you go on LinkedIn, there are some people who do this so well. I'm going to talk to Charlie Safro later this week. Charlie from CS Recruiting creates fantastic content on LinkedIn. There's so many people that I've seen, a lot of podcasters create great content, and but in addition, they might have video clips, they might have a little post with it. We're all addicted to that. We're all going on and looking at that stuff. And sometimes you look at it and go, this is the way to go about it. And then you say, oh, the people who commented on it might be a friend of a friend. And then you go, oh, I know that guy. Click, new connection, potentially a new opportunity. But anyway, getting back to it, first and foremost, some of the hidden opportunities are in personal branding, and closely associated with this is networking. And you and your team over at Freight Movement are facilitating a lot of these networking opportunities, driving these conversations. And as you've said, making the industry more accessible. I think all the big events around the country that we all go to are great, but I think the local events that I can just attend that are in my city are another cool opportunity. I don't have to stay at a hotel one night and I can still meet a whole bunch of people in my space. I love that. And I think the big opportunities, big events, I should say, I love Manifest, but it is like drinking from a fire hose. And I always get opportunities come from it, but this is a little different. This is going to be maybe in my hometown, and I can go and I can meet the locals that work in this business. So we're talking about networking, personal branding, and also we're talking about the dark funnel. The problem with the dark funnel is that's what's out there today. People do not have to make themselves known. They can listen to podcasts. And when they listen to podcasts, you don't have to give your name. I can consume content from LinkedIn, from your website. I can watch videos about you on YouTube. I can educate myself about you and your business without raising my hand. And at some point, if things go well, they show up 80% sold saying, "Hi, Jennie, I've been following you on LinkedIn for a year. I love the video you did. I heard you on Joe's podcast. I heard you on this podcast." That, I think, is the opportunity. It's not the same as what you said to me before we hit the record button. A lot of sales marketing teams right now are very focused on, if I spend $10, tell me what I'm getting for my $10. If I spend 100, tell me what I'm getting. I want to know the exact sale that's going to happen as a result of spending that $100. And I understand where they're coming from, and it's wanting an ROI, but we don't control it. It's like me saying, "Hey, I met Jennie and we talked on the phone for an hour, and then I did a podcast with her. And so I spent this much money on Jennie. How much am I going to get from that?" It's maybe nothing. Maybe it'll be a year, maybe never.
Who
And
knows? We don't know right now. Can't put that in the pipeline yet.
I can't start looking at everyone I talk to as, "Hey, I'm trying to monetize this relationship."
Well, you're gonna have good relationships if you try to monetize them all too.
Yeah, and again, this is not putting anybody down for wanting an ROI on their marketing spend, but the reality is we have a dark funnel. And I think what we can do is we can create great content. We can use the tools we have, but the idea of, I'm going to get them to download a white paper, I'm going to get them to sign up for my email list. You can go about all that, but I think if we abuse that, we're going to not have the success we want. And by the way, we, as an industry, abused that a little bit. We all did it. So anyway, got to develop that niche also. I think that's part of, these are all so interconnected. Your brand can be all about, I'm the cold chain guy, and I create content about that, and I go to networking events and I create relationships around that. Anyway, enough of my blather. Put a big old bow on this one, Jennie. Final thoughts on the topic.
Yeah, I'm really holding on to this adaptability is your strategy right now. I think we're just living in a space where things are constantly evolving, and you need to be open to that change. Don't get stuck in status quo. This is how it's been. This is how it always is. Like, we go to these shows and these are the only shows. I will tell you, start exploring other shows, because there are niche shows that are going to produce a lot more results. You'll get to shake everybody's hand in the room. They're in your space. They're the right people, versus like larger shows. And I fully support the larger shows. I love them.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, be open to exploring different stuff, right? Don't just get stuck in, these are the 10 shows we go to. Don't do that. And that's the same with the content. Don't be like, "Oh, we do 4 webinars a quarter or 4 webinars a year." Don't get stuck in checking boxes. Try new things, because it is time to evolve. We are in a place where what was working yesterday is not working today. And so you've got to try new things. Like we talk about different types of content. Is the white paper producing results? Then why do you keep producing it? Why do you keep putting a gate in front of it?
Because they give me names.
I don't know how many names you're getting, but it's probably not. Look at those bottlenecks. If you have a gate and you have a white paper and you're getting downloads and you're getting names, and you're picking up the phone and calling them and they're like, "Yes, let's talk about buying this," fine, continue to do it. But if you're finding that you have a method in place, a process in place, and you're not getting the sales and the revenue from that, change what you're doing. Change what you're doing. Don't get stuck in that. My last kind of thought is, everyone is a salesperson on the team, regardless if you wear sales in your title. As you work to build your personal brand, that brand kind of aligns with your company. And so even though you have your own message and your own perspectives, you're building the relationships which are fueling the dark funnel. And so just need to own that space and realize that's exactly what you're doing. I don't think some people realize it, but maybe everybody needs to be on commission, because everybody's building their brand and having these conversations online and making these connections and going to these events that ultimately impacts the corporate brand.
I love it. I love it. So who's the ideal customer for, I'll just say, Virago, Freight Movement, etc.?
All of the above. So for the most part, it's all the same. It's any company in the industry that wants a new way of going to market, a fresh perspective.
So when you say the industry, you mean logistics,
Trucking and
transportation?
logistics. Yep.
Where you do warehousing?
We do warehousing. Yep. We work with clients. Oftentimes clients have warehousing on top of a TMS, on top of a fleet. So
Now, do you work also with the tech companies that sell
tech
to the
companies
space?
is really where we started, but we've started working more with 3PLs. It's like see a need, fill a need, going where the market's driving us, and it's still within our wheelhouse.
I think it's so important if you're going to have marketing and go to market, and we all need it, is that you have somebody who understands the space. Because I can tell you, I did some marketing in this business before, and I remember hiring people to help me write some articles. And now, by the way, AI is helping a lot of that. But I remember just saying, oh, why did you use the term cargo here? Oh, I want to change it
Don't
up.
bring up
So I didn't
freight.
want to say freight.
No.
I didn't want to
Yeah,
say freight. So I said cargo.
exactly.
I was like,
No.
make it freight. And I always remember thinking, yeah, you have to come from this space and understand it to create the content and also to understand the trends that are happening in this space.
Yep. Like, we're at all the shows, we've got the relationships.
We're our own animal over here.
We are intermixed and mingling with the industry at large. So I think that's what makes us very proactive and effective because we don't require that like onboarding. Teach us what LTL is and ELD and all. We don't need to do that. We already know the space. We already know your competitors. We already know the landscape, the shows. And so we can get up and moving and producing results really quick.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, I love what you're doing with the go-to-market, which is the Virago, but I think the freight movement is a great tool that we didn't associate with marketing and go-to-market until recently. And now I'm seeing you guys use it very effectively, being able to say, yeah, not only will we do we'll do a webinar, we'll get you on podcasts, we'll do that, we'll create some great content, but then we'll also bring together people around an event in a city that you want to, city of your choice. Doesn't matter to you guys.
Nope. We'll go where you want to go. So if you're like, we've got some good customers, prospects, and partners in Atlanta, then we'll go pop up in Atlanta.
Yep. I think I should also mention, I talked to Nate Johnson. He's I think some people call him the mayor.
Yeah. That's his personal brand.
But the mayor is very much a logistics guy and an entrepreneur in this space who's created a lot of companies and been very successful. And he has his own podcast. You're not working with people who don't understand where you're coming from.
Yep. We are leveraging the network to strengthen everything that we do in every way. And I think that is the differentiator when it comes to AI. AI might write your content for you, do all these things, but like you said, you're not going to have a bear with AI. You're not going to sit down and have a meal with AI. So we're creating the opportunities to have that engagement where it really matters.
I love it. I love it. Jenny, again, I'll make sure I put a link to
All of the
companies and all your content. I will put those all, including your LinkedIn profile, so people can reach out and talk to you. And I really appreciate you taking the time today. I know we went way over time, so I thank you for taking the time.
No problem. Thank you for having me on, Joe.
Yep. And thank all of you for listening to my podcast. Your support's very much appreciated. Until next time, onward and upward. You have been listening to the Logistics of Logistics podcast, where we engage with leaders in the logistics and supply chain community. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, hit the like button, and leave us a nice review on Apple or Spotify or wherever else you listen. Also, please check out our videos on YouTube and connect with us on LinkedIn. We're very big on LinkedIn. And you can also reach us on the logisticsoflogistics.com, our website.